she was scared because she would watch Pakistani dramas and think like your family was like gonna be like the evil characters. What a weird assumption.
It's so insane because I feel like for the both of us, like your parents, my in-laws, my parents, your in-laws, like they just love each other.
A year later, I told my dad. My dad was like, no. Okay. We're here. We're finally doing it.
Finally.
Welcome.
Welcome indeed.
Welcome, Muhammad Furqan.
Welcome, Shompa Marshida Jahan Kabir Furqan.
Yeah, that's a very long name.
That's a long
I
name.
have like 6 names now because of you.
The more, the merrier.
If you didn't realize, we're actually a married couple. We just got married officially in March, but we just finished up one of our bigger celebrations in June. And then, now we're here together for the rest of our lives.
I'm 26 and married. That's insane.
Yeah, and I'm 27. And I really never expected that we, out of all people, would get married together.
That's insane. So many coincidences.
Yeah, there's too many coincidences. And if you don't know, hello, I'm Shompa.
And I'm Furqan.
Well, welcome to the Coffee and Chai podcast.
Coffee versus chai podcast.
Oh,
We're still getting into the groove of things.
Coffee versus chai, because it's like a whole thing.
You like coffee?
I do really love iced coffee, but I'm not a really much of a chai girl.
Chai is wonderful. So cozy. You just after a long day of work, you just make a cup of chai, and the dopamine is just hitting me right now, just even thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm very dark inside, and I love really bitter. I'm very dark and bitter, so that's why iced black coffee is my go-to.
Only black?
Only black. Because do you remember the first time you ever got me coffee?
She said, get me a black coffee iced.
And then you know what you decided to do? He decided that, okay, so there was like 2 weeks where we started going out. And he goes, I asked him to get me an iced cup of coffee, right? Like, my order is the most simplest order known to man, iced black coffee, no sugar, no milk, nothing. He decides he wants to be cute, he wants to be different and special, and he decides when he goes to the barista, let me get her, like, chocolate syrup with my coffee.
Like a mocha, like a little mocha flavor.
But it wasn't a mocha flavor. That was the thing. So by the time I got the coffee, all the chocolate was just sink down below, and it was just like the most disgusting iced coffee I ever had.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that
bad. But because I really liked you, I really, really liked you, I let it slide. And I was like, oh wow, this is cute. Like, that's really nice of you.
I try. You know what, guys? It's the thought that counts.
Yeah. And it's just funny. We're going to talk about how we actually met, our origin story and everything like that. But one of the green flags about him when we first got together was we were waiting for brunch. Like, we were getting food to go. And this whole, like, brunch fiasco, he ordered 3 eggs in hell. Like, that's what the dish is called, 3 eggs in hell. But the guy who took his order thought he said 3 orders of 3 eggs in hell. So that brunch was almost like $100 first off.
I looked at that when I was paying for it, and I was just like, huh? And we waited so long, so we were still just as confused too.
Yeah,
on top
we were
of that.
just like sitting with each other and just like making jokes and whatnot. And then by the time we were waiting that long, like, the iced coffee melted. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like, I didn't even get my food yet, and my whole coffee melted. And what he did was, like, he went up to the barista and was like, can we get another iced coffee and, like, more ice in it this time? And clearly you could tell, like, basic minimum requirements of a guy really, like, blew my mind at the time. 'Cause I was like, wow, the fact that someone asked for more ice for my coffee really showed my standards at the time, because I was just so impressed with you. I was like, wow, someone finally stood up for me and got me some ice.
It's so crazy that the bare minimum
it's so sad.
What people what women just
The
want
kindness.
nowadays.
The kindness was my bare minimum. I was like, wow, he's nice to me? That's crazy.
Three eggs in hell. I looked at all three boxes and I just got a little nervous. I was like, she's gonna think I'm dumb. Just
And
a
yeah, I
straight
did.
dummy.
But it was so funny. It was so funny. It was like 3 containers. But anyways, I'm a content creator full time and I have a job. So a lot of the times when I'm making videos, everyone asks me, so I'm Bangladeshi, he's Pakistani. Everyone always asks how we told our parents how we got married in the first place because, you know, we did the little boyfriend girlfriend thing for a bit. And then we got married. So let's talk about our origin story because if you don't know the backstory, like Bangladesh and Pakistan, they were one country and then they divided and we had a really big, like, gruesome war. So a lot of people always say a lot of negative things when me being Bangladeshi and him being Pakistani, like, how can I do that? Like, how can I go to, like, our colonizer in a sense and, like, our trader, which is so wild because, you know, I didn't even know our history. I didn't even know the Bangladesh history till I was a grown adult, like, on TikTok, actually.
But, you know, those comments are really insane because I just don't understand how they feel that they can just target you specifically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we can, for example, from a Pakistani point of view, I would say, is our government doesn't really acknowledge it like that, in my opinion. But, you know, if your country has committed some sort of atrocity or tragedy, you as an individual still have to, like, acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
And fully acknowledging that, even though we haven't been a part of it, me and you, is what helps us to grow together. I think it's just like, you know, when you're part of two different cultures and you acknowledge that history too, it also can help heal in a certain sense of way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like really weird because sometimes like I'll be on TikTok and I'll make like videos and it's not like I ever actually like featured you in too many things, like here and there I would, but one of like the weirdest comments I would see is like I'm fetishizing being with Pakistanis, which is so wild because it's like if you actually know our origin story, like it's not like one day I woke up and I was like, yeah, I want this Pakistani man. That's my dreams. That's my desires. No, I grew up in Brooklyn. Like, I wanted all flavors of the rainbows at the time, like when I was growing up. So it's so funny and so weird because it's like, yeah, obviously, like I put my stuff out there on social media.
Yeah.
But personally, like no one knows my backstory. No one knows like my history of just like how I grew up, things that I liked and stuff like that. So I guess now we're going to get into like our origin story because it's really insane. It's so weird.
You go first. Go ahead.
Okay, so one day, the summer of 2020, I was not a good person. I was out and about like all the time. And I know the FCC made some laws. And I'm pretty sure I was like one of the reasons why they made those laws because I was out like every day. And then my cousin's engagement happened and I was like on Instagram. I was just scrolling around and I decided to make the move where I DM'd you because a few weeks before I would see you on like my close friends' like Instagrams and I was like, damn, who is that?
I had a glow up. Yo.
He had a glow up because we actually went to high school together. I was friends with so many people. I was like very outgoing. I was just out there.
And that was the opposite.
And he was like the complete opposite. Like he was like in the background, like never spoken a word. But like the craziest part was like all of our mutual friends, like we had the same friends.
The same exact friends.
And you were just like one of the characters in the background.
You know what's so crazy about that is she would host these parties and I just see all my friends go to her parties and just they'd be in like a long table, you know, it's the Last Supper style. And
Everyone's having such a good time.
Everyone's having a great time.
They're like, oh my God, it's Shompa's annual like summer barbecue.
And I'm watching the stories and I'm just like, wow, where's my invite at?
And it's just so funny because, yeah, you were literally never invited because I never spoke to you. That was the thing. Like, you were in the background, and there was like this one friend that we had. He had a going away party, and you told me how you said hi to me. I didn't even know you were there. It's crazy because there is a photo of us together. I didn't even know we were in the same photo. Like, literally, I didn't know until we started, like, going out. And he was like, you know, we're in this photo together, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I was like, yo, holy shit. We're in, like, the two opposite ends of this photo. Never acknowledged your existence.
It's so crazy, though, when looking back at that photo, 9 years to this day.
Yeah.
Like, those two people got married this year.
And we also
insane.
went to the same college, like, the first year.
Yeah.
And you were with the groups of friends that I knew who, when we would be on campus, we would have a conversation. I would say hi to them, and you would be there. Yo, I literally never noticed you.
I was the NPC. That's what it was. That was my NPC era.
It's just crazy because, like, clearly he did glow up and then he got my attention. So I was on Instagram, I saw him, and then I did respond to one of his stories. He left me on red. Just know that. So, but you know what? Karma, like, I guess.
I got married.
Yeah, I won the bigger end of the stick. I got married, so.
Well, we got married.
Okay, so I sent him an Instagram story. He doesn't respond. I send him another follow-up Instagram story, and that's when he finally responds. And we're talking all night long, like all night long.
You know those conversations that just last till 4 or 5?
Till like literally 4 a.m. I remember this specifically because at the time you were working at like Checks and Cash In.
Yeah.
And you had work at 7 a.m. And you were like, I gotta go. And I was like, no, don't go.
And I got like 2 hours of sleep going into work almost all the time back then.
Yeah, but mind you, like on Instagram, I was like, ask me for my number. Like, I was so straight. I was actually so straight up with you. I was like, ask me for my number.
Super straightforward. And then I FaceTimed her.
No, way before that.
Okay.
Because we were texting all night long. And there's like this little joke that like brown girls love Thai food. Like that's like our thing. And we were talking about Thai food and I was like, oh, I'm like so busy. Maybe we should go get Thai food sometime. And you're like, yeah, we'll go get. And I was like, no, I'm a busy girl. You need to lock in a date with me right now. And then he did. It was on a Thursday.
That's crazy that you remember that.
Yeah.
My memory is not that good.
Yeah, it was on a Thursday. And then you FaceTimed me. And that was the first time I saw you since high school when you FaceTimed me.
That was a hilarious FaceTime call. She was just cross-legged on her bed, looking mad nervous.
I locked the door of my room.
Smiling mad hard, cheesing. I remember it.
And I was like, do you have an accent? I don't ever remember you having an accent.
I did not have an accent back then.
I didn't have now an accent. I don't hear it. But I was like, did you have an accent?
You know what it is? I'm a brown dude. So like, she just auto put an accent filter on me.
Yeah, I did. I did put an accent filter on you. And then we had our first date.
Our first date. Hilarious.
That was like the best date I've ever had in my life.
That date, so many words, so many emotions.
Yeah.
We were supposed to go to that Thai spot. What ended up happening? You walked home?
Yo, that Thai spot was so ratchet. Like, it had like one table, 2 broken ass chairs, and I took him by the arm. I don't know even why I got so comfortable with you. I took you by your arm. I grabbed you like this, and I was like, let's turn around. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, I like literally touched him. That's weird.
I remember when you did that, and I just looked at you, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is going good so far, I guess. And this is literally just 2 minutes into us just walking down the block.
Yeah.
And then we sit down at another Thai spot, and just the goofery happens. Yeah. I knock over the table.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's funny.
No, I would say I'm one of the clumsiest people in the whole
Yeah, I
world.
know.
The clumsiest.
It runs in your family.
It does. We break things.
Yeah, you've broken a lot of stuff in my apartment already.
Yeah, I have, but more to come. So
Yeah,
just
I know.
just be prepared.
TBD forever. So we actually didn't tell our friends that we were going out. We wanted it to be a secret because it was just so random, and also it was just like a first date. But I did tell him through text. I was like, if you do anything weird to me, or if you do something, I will literally tell everyone. Like, I was so mean. I was like, I will literally ruin you. So don't fuck with me. Like, don't be rude or don't do anything crazy.
I wasn't even planning on doing any of that.
I know,
anyways.
but like, you know,
See?
as like a woman, I'm going on a first date. Like I'm always on guard. Like I was always on guard. So that's why I had to be straight up with you. And I was like, listen, don't play with me.
I didn't play at all, but it was still a good time.
Yeah. And it was great. It was really like the best first date ever. And then 2 weeks later, I think a week later, he was like, I don't want to see you anymore. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was so mad. I cursed you out, actually. I cursed you out.
But we stayed on that call.
Yeah, because he called me. I was cursing him out through text because all I said was I made some mango mousse cups. And he asks me till this day to make mango mousse cups. I refuse to make it because it's my rejection dessert.
It's insane.
So
it's insane. I just want to have the mousse cup just finally.
No. So he rejected me and I was cursing him out through text. I was like, oh, you freaking brown guys, you guys are all the same. Whatever. Like, I was just cursing you out. And then you, like, called me. I was like, the fuck is he calling me for? And then you were like, tell me how you feel. And I was like, what? It threw me off like crazy because I was
but this was on the same phone call. I didn't call you back or anything like that. I think it was on the same phone call.
No, we were texting and then you called me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, trust me, I would not be on the phone with you if you said that.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, it like threw me off. So, and then we just ended up being together. So I don't even know what happened. Did you just like the fact that I cursed you out and like what was that?
Honestly, it was just me having such a great time with you, and I felt like I didn't know if I wanted to jump into something serious, but the fact was that like the chemistry, like everything was perfect. Yeah. Literally everything was perfect.
I was ready. I was like, this is my man.
So then I was like, okay, what am I doing?
That's a fact. What were you doing?
I just had to take that leap. I had to get over that wall that I had set up for myself in my head.
Yeah.
And
then I made your life so much better.
You did. You did.
No, literally, I did.
You literally did.
Because you got a job, like your career set off.
Hey,
you got a house.
Hey.
You got
I attribute some of that to myself.
I just like knowing that I'm the impetus of the positivity in your life. That's what I like to think.
The positivity? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
You can have that.
Thanks. But
I'll take the hard work and effort.
And it's funny because like I did say we didn't tell any of our friends, but we did kind of want to stir up the pot a little bit because it was just kind of funny. So what we did was I had a very janky phone at the time and my phone was just never working for some reason. So I posted an Instagram story of like just our plates, like us across from each other eating food. But my story never actually went up because my phone was so janky. And then you took the photo and you originally posted it on your story like at that time. And then I didn't till like way later. And then then like our friends figured it out, and obviously we did it on purpose, you know, we did it on purpose, but it was actually someone that's actually not our friend but friends within the same group, where he took a screenshot and then circled your Diet Coke can on your photo, and then they looked at like my photo and they were like, wait, and then all of our friends sent it to each other, and then like the frenzy began.
That was so insane. I did not expect them to do some
Yeah, to
detective
circle
work
the,
like that,
yeah,
or even connect the dots.
Yeah.
Because you know what, like,
it's so random. Like who would have thought like me and him?
so
because
random.
because we never even hung out. Like literally throughout like our college years, every time like our friends would have a thing, like I would show up and he wouldn't be there, or like he would show up and I would never be there. So our paths just never crossed.
We just didn't interact like that.
Yeah, exactly. So like, why would you think like they would?
So coincidences. We went to the same high school. We had the same friend group. We went to the same college for a bit. Yeah. So there's always a pathway there.
Yeah, but I always had you on social media though.
Oh, yeah, we
I
did.
always had you on social media. I just like
Yeah.
never knew who you were. Like I thought it was, you know, it's just like when you follow people from high school and like you don't ever give it like a second thought. Like you were one of my second thoughts.
Yeah.
At the time, not anymore, clearly.
That's kind of rough. But I mean, I would say it's kind of the same. Like, my interest wasn't peaked till you started doing, like, your first TikToks.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you started doing your TikToks, I was like, oh, she's a little cute. She's a little goofy. You know, like, I started noticing you when you started doing that. And then when you hit that DM, I was like freaking out.
Because we actually saw each other on Tinder and didn't swipe either. Like I saw his profile on Tinder and I didn't swipe on it because I was like, oh, he's like friends with all my friends. And we just like literally didn't swipe on each other, which is funny because every time I saw someone I knew on Tinder, I always swiped on them because I thought it was funny. But you were like the only person that I knew that I didn't swipe because I was like, oh, like, what if he, like, told his friends or something like that?
Well, good thing you didn't swipe. And
Yeah.
we went about it. I feel like a lot of Tinder relationships are kind of don't end up happening.
I don't know.
Maybe
I
it
wouldn't
would've.
know. I'm married.
No. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it seems like that from what people say when they talk about their stories all the time.
That's true, but I feel like it's been a few years, so the
So no.
app game is definitely different.
Yeah, the app game, the community, the app game, everything
Yeah.
is totally different. Ever since, so now can we fast forward to COVID? Oh no, what am I saying? Fast forward to COVID, but like, can we talk about COVID a little bit during then?
Okay.
Yeah, so we weren't good.
Yeah, like I said,
we were
not good.
horrible.
Mm-mm.
We were going out during COVID. That was
we were just on the streets.
reckless.
Literally. We were on the streets.
But I think we were just clicking, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, COVID was such a crazy moment. Like, I feel like we found, like, a little bit of solace in between each other.
And we lived close by. That was the thing. So, like,
Yeah.
we stayed within our areas. Like, we didn't go out anywhere. I'm not justifying
Yeah.
anything, but, like, we were, like, 15 minutes away from each other.
Yeah.
So, it was not hard to, like, it wasn't inconvenient to meet up with each other. And I think that's also a thing. And also, this is going to sound a little shallow, but, for a brown girl, for a guy having a car, excuse me. That is 10 out of 10. The fact that you had a car, I'm pretty sure, added into this relationship.
I mean, having the car in general just allowed us to be everywhere, go everywhere.
Because I was not going to take the train. I was not going to hop onto the MTA for no man during COVID. Like, I even have my limits. But you had a car. It was a very interesting car, but you had a car.
I loved my Escape. Wow. But it was a janky car.
It was a very janky car. I will never forget the time. Like, this is how you know I really liked him, because one time you were at work and you were really rushing to work and you had your car. So in like New York City, we have alternate street side cleaning, where like the garbage people like come clean the streets and stuff, and it's at a certain time. It's like from 10 to 11. You parked your car in the morning because you start work at 7 a.m. and at 10 you're like freaking out, you're like, damn, like how am I supposed to like move my car? This is how I know I really liked you, because I was like, I'll move your car, I'll go to your job and I'll move your car for you. I could not find any single parking. So I took his car and went on errands. I took your car, went on errands, and then I came home with your car. And mind you, my dad is in the front of the driveway. He asks no questions, but like obviously when you're like a brown girl, you're keeping your relationships a secret. So the fact that he never asked me whose car it was is so weird.
No questions asked.
No questions asked.
Why not?
I don't know. And then it wasn't until like you were done with work at like 2 p.m. That's when I took your car and I picked you up from work. And then you dropped me home and then you went home.
You're so nervous.
I was, because the car's
nervous.
brakes were so bad. Like, it was like, I'm not saying a janky car because it was a janky car. It was actually very unsafe, that car.
Yeah. But it got the job done.
It got the job done for a while until it officially died. Yeah.
No, you know how she just kept on doing like these amazing girlfriend things and just stole my heart like that. Because what you would do is you'd make like these little corn muffins and little treats, and you'd bring them to my workplace. And like I think what was it, like a 10-minute walk?
Yeah, like a 15 minute walk.
You'd walk that 10-minute walk. You'd make those little corn muffins.
I'd make you breakfast, or I'd buy you breakfast from the deli.
Yeah, and like so there'll be like a line of older Mexican women just ready to get their checks cashed or do whatever they need to do, and you just stand behind the whole line, wait the 30 minutes.
Yeah, facts. Because like I didn't want to inconvenience anyone, so I'd stand in line with the women, and then I just knock on the bulletproof glass, like, here's your food.
And I just look at you and be like, why are you standing there? Just come.
And I was
just
like,
I
don't want anyone yelling at me.
But no, those initial moments are really what stole my heart.
Aw, cute.
So
yeah, and
that's
then
what it did it for me.
yeah, because like when we were dating, I was like, hey, listen, like I don't want to date just to date. Like I want to date because like I want this to work out in the long term and like us to eventually get married. So I was like really straight up with you because I didn't want to waste my time.
Neither did I.
And because like at the time, like my mom, she was just so hell bent on me getting married. Like I'm the only daughter of 5 boys, and literally like my mom's dream, like I'm not even exaggerating, like she would literally say like, Shompa, my dream is for you to get married. Like that's all I want in this world, for you to get married. And I was like, that's a really strange dream. At the same time, like I'm accomplishing so many things in life. Obviously with COVID it was like put on a hold, but she was like, I just want you to get married and like find someone. And I'm like, okay, but like it just didn't seem possible at the time. So that's why I was like pretty straight up with you that I wanted this to be a long-term thing instead of a short-term thing. And I think sometimes a lot of people get like intimidated by that. So like how did you feel when I told you like, hey, I'm dating to get married, not to date for fun?
I was in the same boat. You know, I was looking for a person to get married to, but I was also in the mindset where, I need to make sure this is the person.
Mm-hmm. Because we're both the oldest in our family.
Yeah.
And no one else in our immediate family has ever gotten married outside of the culture before. So what we were doing is like, if we were going to introduce ourselves to our parents, we had to make sure. And like, this is a tip I give to all my brown girls, especially if you come from like a conservative household or like a really strict Bengali or Pakistani family. I would always say no 100%. Like that's the person you're willing to bring into the house, because once you expose like that person into your life, into your family, like I feel like sometimes if it goes wrong, like your family can really hold it over you. and really
Yeah.
against you, that like, oh, or somebody in your later in the family could start talking shit like, oh wow, like she dated this one Pakistani guy, it didn't work out. So you see, and like always bring a negative aspect to it. So I never told my parents until I was 100% ready about you.
Yeah, and it was the same on my end. I told you from the very beginning until I feel that not only am I ready, but my parents, I feel, come to a point where I can tell them about this. Then we can go on with that conversation.
Yeah.
And you know what's so crazy is that like, so, I broke it to my parents.
Wait, maybe I should say how I started first.
You want to? Go
Because
ahead.
like I did tell my family way before you.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So I guess when it came to like the marriage process, a lot of people asked like, how did that work between us? Obviously, like our wedding events went very smoothly in theory, but there was like, I thought it would be worse. I think we had like a way better end of the stick of us like getting together and our families really liking each other, but there was so much hesitancy beforehand. Like I said, we were the only ones that didn't marry outside of our cultures, so that was like a very big factor. But I did tell my mom. My mom says she always knew. She did not always know, because like I said, I still continued having these like summer events, and one of the years he just happens to start being one of the new characters at the events. She goes, yeah, I always knew it was him. Well, obviously my mom's never seen you before. I have the same group of friends like my whole life, so whoever my parents sees, it's always the same character. So obviously, like when you came in, good looking guy, enthusiastic, friends with everyone, so like she always said she knew, and she'd be like creeping and like looking out the window, like smiling and stuff, and then my brother would walk away because like my brother knew, so he'd be laughing, but I did tell my mom, because she was just one of these days, like there was a bunch of stuff happening in my family, and she was just freaking the freak out. Like, she was just freaking the fuck out on me getting married. And, like, she started telling people, oh, I don't think Shompa will ever get married. Which is not true. I just, like, didn't have anyone at the time. And she was just bugging out in her room. And I had to literally be like, okay, well, there is someone. And then I told her examples about you, and then she was like, oh, okay. And she didn't react negatively or anything, but she was very scared about your parents. Like, she was very scared. And, like, she was scared because she would watch Pakistani dramas and think, like, your family was, like, gonna be, like, the evil characters. And I was like, wait, yo, me and my cousin and my brother, we laughed at her. We were like, what are you talking about? Like, because you watch TV? Like, what a weird assumption.
It's so insane, because I feel like for the both of us, like, your parents, my in-laws, my parents, your in-laws, like, they just love each other.
Exactly.
So
now they're, like,
much.
best friends. And we'll definitely talk about the transition of that. But, yeah, like, then later on, a year later, I told my dad. My dad was like, no. Like, my dad was straight up like, no. And I was like, tell me your reasons why. He's like, you know, it's like the language barrier because we speak two different languages. And in my head, I was like, speaking English.
Mm-hmm.
Talking English. You can survive in this country learning English, talking English.
Yeah.
But it's weird because also my parents are fully fluent in Urdu.
They are.
They're very fluent in Urdu, so I was like, why is there hesitation? And it was just mainly like they were just scared about the family part. They weren't scared about you. They were scared about your family.
I think that's the biggest fear for both of our families in general.
Like if they were going to
mesh together
because it's two different cultures.
Yeah. Because, I mean, are you done with the story? You want me to go ahead? So when I was telling my parents, I mean, I'll just get into it before, like, I'll tell us the build up, but.
Oh, wait, I actually have one more thing.
Okay.
So a lot of people ask me, like, how I kind of broke it down to kind of convince my parents. So basically how I broke it down was, like, I was like, hey, like, you always asked me what I wanted in a partner. And I always told you I wanted someone who could be like my best friend.
Yeah.
And someone that like has the characteristics of my dad. Because my dad's a very respectable guy. Like my
Yeah.
dad is such an amazing guy. So I always told my mom, I was like, I needed someone that had the characteristics of my dad in the sense of he takes care of his family, very gentle, um, just is a very caring person overall and respects me. And throughout the weeks, like my dad would ask me literally, he would be like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "I'm not changing my mind." And then my mom would ask me throughout the weeks, like within like 4 weeks, every week, they'll ask me if I wanted to change my mind. And I was like, that's crazy. Like at the time, I was like, what, 25 or 24, 25 probably. I was 25, but when we started seriously talking about the marriage, it was 26. And I was like in my head, like, I'm an adult.
Yeah.
Like, my brain is pretty conscious of all the decisions I make, all the judgments I make. I'm not a child anymore, but you know,
Yeah.
sometimes how your parents, like, if you're unmarried, they still treat you like a kid. Like,
Yeah.
for Desi culture in general, like, if you're not married, they kind of don't see you as an adult. So I felt like they were still doing that to me for a very long time. Like they weren't seeing me as like an equal. So that's why they kept on asking me if I changed my mind. And I was never that type of person where I ever changed my mind on things. I was always like very high strung on it. And I was like, you know, you guys also care about having a very good Muslim man. Like he is actually like religious. You're actually religious.
Yeah.
So I did explain that to him, to my parents, and I was like, listen, like in Islam, like you can marry another Muslim. The whole like Bengali, Pakistani relationship, that's all of a cultural thing. But like I grew up in America. Like I didn't always think that I had to be with like a Bengali person or like another thing. It's not like I didn't choose to. It's just we just happened to like find our paths together.
I think, you know, when I told my parents also, it was the same concepts. I think generally across the board, that's just how it is. You know, like when I told my parents and I told them, in a way, they also babied me. Well, babied or see you as a kid. They don't see you as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And until you bring up that conversation of marriage or you're fully married, that's when they start treating you like an adult, which is it's difficult to get your own thoughts across over to your parents because of that. Because when I told my parents, I sat them down, we were having a family barbecue.
Mind you waited till I was out of the state. He was so scared that he waited till I was out of the state on vacation to Rhode Island.
I was scared. I was nervous, so shook. So I sat my parents. I was like, hey guys, I want to have a little talk with you. I got like 2 seats set up for them outside.
And we were so worried on our end. We were just like anticipating, oh, when is he finally going to tell his family? When is it going to happen? And then you sent me the text, oh, it was done.
Yeah. And so my brother's just there grilling all the chicken. My parents sit down. They start eating, munching on the food. We're all having a good time. And I just break it down to them. I was like, hey, I want to have a serious talk with you. And I just broke it down, you know, like just about you, about the family. And then I also told them, like, in terms of religion, because my parents are religious.
Yeah.
In terms of religion, like, there shouldn't be a cultural barrier that stops us from getting married.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I didn't really, like, make it known as if like these are hard set rules. Like I try to phrase it in a way where they're understanding of what I'm bringing across to them, instead of me putting my foot down. Hey, I only want to marry this person.
Yeah, exactly.
This and that. Like I try to keep them in an understanding mode, and because of that, because my parents saw that not only am I respecting our culture, but I'm respecting somebody else's culture and the religion as a whole, that really just brought everything together. And then the only issue is, just like you said, my dad said, what about the language?
Yeah.
And at that point, I said, you know, we live in America. We live in New York, and
Everyone knows some type of English to at least get by.
exactly. So why can't we make this work?
Yeah.
What's the issue?
And also at the end of the day, like my Bangla is not like fluent. I love, because I like to say I speak Bangladesh.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, like, when I speak Bangla, like, I don't express emotion. I can't really express feeling.
Yeah.
So, like, that's why English is, like, my dominant language. So that's why, to me, it was important that, like, I can communicate with someone that I can actually communicate with. Like, at the end of the day, like, I'm marrying you. I'm marrying the person. So, like, I needed to communicate with the person that I was going to marry.
Yeah. I mean, they communicated just fine because your parents knew Urdu, and I think the only other question, the only big other factor was, how is the family?
Yeah.
And I made it known. I was like, hey, the family is amazing. I want you to sit down, have a talk with them.
Mm-hmm.
We're all sit at a table, and I don't want you to make any final decisions on your part until you meet the family and her yourself.
So both of our families were open on, like, sitting down together. So do you remember how we kind of initiated that? Like, I'm pretty sure it was you that you were like, okay, like, let's meet them. Because a lot of our communication was not within our parents. So our parents did not communicate beforehand. Yeah. They all the communication was done between us. So we were the ones that set up the dinner, the first meeting and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I just my parents were like, okay, let's get it on the road, and we just set a date. We set a place, and the next thing you know, it's the night of, and we're all just getting prepared and ready.
Wait, actually, no, because before then, my parents did take you out to dinner. It was weird. Before our families met, my parents wanted to have a sit-down dinner with you specifically.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to be like, yo, are you, like, ready to marry my daughter? Like, they were asking you straight up. Like, my parents are not intimidating people. I just want to let that be known. My parents are not intimidating people. I just happen to be, like, the only intimidating person from the family. But my parents are very nice people. But they were like, I want to meet him officially as your partner, that we were about to get engaged. So that was so weird.
Okay, before we get into all of that, let me run down all of the things beforehand that happened. Mm-hmm. So, number one of the Eids, I think the first Eid that we were together, or that year together.
You came to my house.
I came to her house, and
it was weird.
And I talked to her dad. Her dad sat me down, and he just asked me a ton of questions of, what do I do for work?
Because, at that first Eid, that's when, like, the marriage talk was starting. But like I said, this was before our families met. So that Eid was in July, and then the actual official sit-down dinner was in August.
Was it
or like September, or maybe first week of September,
something like that,
because it was like a holiday weekend. So then we went to dinner together.
So he sat me down.
We sat next to each other.
He sat me down, asked me a bunch of questions. So I'm thinking, okay, so I already checked this box off. I know my mother-in-law loves me, so I can say this proudly. I already had a good feeling. Your mom was already on board.
Yeah, my mom liked you way too much.
But and I love her so much.
She loves you. Oh my gosh, she literally
I love her so much.
Idolizes you, because she's like, this is my only son-in-law. This is my only ever son-in-law. I'm going to treat him as a king.
She's so freaking amazing. But yeah, I was just nervous about your dad. I mean, rightfully so. This is your father, But
I did tell you not to be intimidated, because, like I said, he is the most unintimidated person
sweetest
ever.
Man. Yeah. He did his rightful duties.
Yeah.
And he after you told them, like, yo, like, this is gonna happen now. Like, this is what I want in life.
Yeah, because I didn't really ask permission to get married to you. I was like, I told them.
Yeah.
And Like, I was just always that type of person. I never asked permission. That's why I gave my parents such a hard time growing up, because like I never asked for permission. I was always like telling them.
Yeah. And but you know, I felt I don't know, it's kind of weird, but just like it was just so natural when he asked me all those questions. Like we just had a really good conversation together, and I came out of that room and you're like, what did my dad ask you? And I knew your mom and you were like just on the other side, just wondering what's going on.
Because my dad doesn't talk a lot. He's a man of a very few words. Because my dad is a very nice guy, but he doesn't talk a lot, especially in social settings.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's anxious or something. He's just like that. So when he was having such a long conversation with you, we were kind of confused. We were like, what is this man saying?
You know, it's kind of great that like I've been through this process of your family protecting you in a way over and over and over, because it's just built that like idea of responsibility for me for, you know, later on down the line.
Because it wasn't like a yes and we went through it. It was like we literally had to go through like a few family meetups. Because even right after Eid, there was another meetup that my dad had with you individually.
Yeah, individually. So that was the second one.
No, there was the dinner. It was Eid. Then it was the dinner, the combined dinner. And then after the combined dinner, it was the individual sit down.
Oh my goodness.
And then it was actually our family's meeting. Because like at that dinner, when it was me, you, and my parents, they, first of all, like as a brown girl, like thinking that you're going to sit down, have dinner with like your significant other with your parents, like this is only something I've seen on TV. You know, to me, I was like, this is not normal. But that's like weird. And like what made me feel so uncomfortable is that we were sitting next to each other. But like obviously, like we had to, because we were the ones that were gonna get married.
You know what's so funny? I remember sitting at that dinner and they just brought out like so much delicious food.
Yeah, because we went to a really good restaurant.
But her parents were grilling me. They were grilling me.
Not in a mean way.
Not in a mean way, but they were making sure to check all the boxes.
Yeah, they did a lot of small talk in the beginning.
And
my mom did.
Yeah. A lot of small talk. But then, you know, once they started grilling me, I'm just looking at the food and I'm like, oh, really want to take a bite. But
and it's I wasn't even talking at all. I was disassociating the whole entire time. I was legitimately disassociating. I had no comments. I was eating away.
Yo, I was starving. I remember I left that restaurant hungry.
Yeah. Because like at a certain point of the dinner, my mom was like, okay, so like, are you ready to marry my daughter?
Yeah. And I gave her the answer, and they still weren't fully confirmed.
Because they were just hesitant, like I said, with the family, because I think like for us, like we're both very family people. We come from very big like family oriented backgrounds where it's just like such a major thing in our lives, and that's something like I tried to escape when I was younger, but now I'm embracing it. But because we're like the oldest in these family dynamics, like that is just one of the factors, because that whole thing of like when you marry someone, you're actually marrying their family, like that's in our cases very true.
Very true. And then after that, like, was the sit down with me and your dad after our family dinner?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just skip to that and go back to the family dinner because that was really short. And right after the family dinner, still they needed a confirmation from me.
But at that time, so when we were having this major family dinner, I actually got a notification. Like I was told that I got hired for this job here in LA. So that was another factor that I did make the decision to move to LA.
Yeah.
So when we had the family dinner, it was a week before me and my dad flew out looking for apartments, and we didn't tell your parents till the family dinner that I was actually going to be moving to LA.
Yeah, you know, I waited for our families to have a conversation
Mm-hmm.
before bringing that up and have your family acknowledge that themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want it to come in the way of the marriage talks of you moving away. Even though
Mm-hmm.
it's such a big thing, I wanted it to focus on what really matters,
Yeah.
and that's how do the families click together.
Yeah.
And that's what mattered the most to me. So I didn't bring that up. I was like, you know what, let's see how this goes first, and then if that conversation comes up naturally, we can talk about it. If it doesn't,
Yeah.
then I'll just tell them afterwards.
Yeah. So at the family dinner, it was my brother, me, and my parents, not the younger two ones. But then on your side, it was your parents and your sister. So when we met up at Sammy's Kebab in Astoria. First of all, the food that day was fire.
Phenomenal.
So good.
Phenomenal.
So damn good. I was so mad you guys took the leftovers. Because I was like, yo, the food was so good. And you didn't like that because we went to the restaurant beforehand and you were like, I think Sammy's is overrated. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Like,
the food is so good.
We went there like 2 to 3 times beforehand.
Yeah.
And each time I'm just like, yo, I don't understand the hype about this place. Why does everybody talk about it so highly?
Yeah.
What's up? What's going on with it? And then that day
They were like, yo, they're coming through.
they pulled
They're
out
having
everything.
one of the most important moments of their life. We got the best chefs on the grill today.
Yeah, the owner came. I think Sammy himself. Sammy himself came. He was like legit putting down our plates, taking our order. He said, "Don't worry about anything." You know what it was? I think he got the gist because he saw like the flowers being exchanged, and then he saw like a little bit of the awkwardness, and like the hugging and everything. So I think he got the gist. Now that I think about it,
another moment I was just disassociating in that dinner too because it was so strange. Like I like never thought, oh, this is the moment that this is actually happening, that like your families are meeting. Like I can't believe I was in this process now.
You disassociated a lot of events.
I disassociated most of everything.
It seems like that.
Because there was so much going on in my mind. It was more of like, I can't believe it was happening.
I think, you know what, I couldn't disassociate because I was just put on the spot. And I'm glad
you didn't, because one of us had to stay present.
I was put on the spot. I had to make sure that everything is like being addressed between both families. You know, my parents, they don't know Bengali, and you know, they're not the most fluent at English.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure that translation was going across.
Yeah.
If your parents spoke in English,
because also your parents don't speak Urdu really, they speak Punjabi.
They speak Punjabi,
so it's like I know some words here and there, like also my parents know some words here and there, but also it's like a completely different language in a sense. So a lot of the times when like your mom was talking or your dad was talking, like I'd be looking at you and I'm like, hello, translate, but you're too busy like engaging with my dad and my brother. And then I'm like looking at your sister, but your sister's young, so I guess she's not like picking up on the clues. And I'm like, miss, can you translate, please? I need some subtitles right now.
For her, she's like, oh, I get some
this
good
is so
food.
Fun.
This is
yeah,
so fun.
Right? She's a bystander.
I'm eating some good food. You know, she was having time in her life.
I'm dressed up. It's my night out.
That was her night.
And I'm like, hello. I need to know what's going on. So that's why I disassociated most of the time.
And then right after that, the dinner was just amazing.
Yeah.
Dinner was amazing.
And
everybody
then we
clicked
did
together.
tell them that I was moving to LA there.
Right before that, on the drive home, I got the check boxes from both my parents.
Yeah.
And my mom goes, so Furqan, you know, we have to start planning for the clothes and the jewelry.
And it was so funny because my dad afterwards was telling me how like because we were a little separated a little bit. Like I was on like the left side with like the women, and then you were on the right side across from me with the men. So my dad was telling me how your dad was like, let's get started.
Yeah.
We're ready. And my dad was like, whoa, hold up. Slow this down. Because your parents were ready, like, on the spot. Where it was ironic, to me, it was ironic because I was like, wow, this was the moment that my parents have been waiting for. And now they're being a little hesitant because you know what? It's actually happening now. And now they don't know what to do.
You know, it's so crazy because growing up, just throughout the years, teens, you know, just growing up into an adult, I always had this fear in me where my parents weren't going to accept anybody unless she's Pakistani.
From the
she's
village.
she's from the village, and let's be honest, she's my first cousin.
Yeah.
And which is insane to just
because it almost happened.
Yeah,
you
it
almost got married off.
I almost got married off, but let's save that story for another time. But you know, just because of that, like, I always had this innate fear in me, like, they're not gonna accept anybody, anybody. So how am I going to make this happen? And then for them to be so welcoming of you guys, of you, they just loved you. Like, my mom I just saw her eyes the second she saw you and she hugged you. I was like, it's a wrap. It's a done deal. And my dad, you know, he got 2 words in his vocabulary: mashallah, mashallah. And the second he saw you and the entire family, he's just been saying that nonstop every day since. And it's been beautiful, you know?
Yeah, because, like, before we introduced ourselves, like, our families, you asked for a bunch of photos of me. So I had to go through my photo album, find the most modest photos of myself. I was like, I have to curate my biodata right now.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what a biodata is, it's basically a resume of, like, of a potential partner with all their informations. And I will never forget the first time my parents asked me to make a biodata, way before me and you were together. And I wrote 1 word, and it was my name. And I was like, get out of my face. I'm not making that.
Thank God I never had to make one of those.
It's so weird. It was so weird.
I don't think any Pakis ever have had to do that from, like, what I've known.
It's a very big Bengali thing because for a while my parents were only, like, Bengali only.
Yeah.
You're not going to marry anyone else, only a Bengali person. And I was like, but why? So I, like, argued with them for a really long time. And I'll never forget the first biodata I ever got. It was so disgusting. Like, no offense to the guy, but he was, like almost 40. I didn't give a shit if he was a doctor, but it was just, I was offended. I was offended because I was like, you're my parents. You say you know what's best for me, yet you gave me this clown.
Yeah.
I'm offended that you think I would like this.
You know what it is? I think personally that arranged marriages can work just as much love marriages 100%, can.
100%, yeah.
But sometimes our parents be goofy, you know?
But you know, now arranged marriage is more of, like, not your typical, like, back in the day where you only meet the person for, like, 5 minutes.
5 minutes. You saw a picture and you're getting married. That's it.
No, but like, literally, there are so many people in my family where they saw the person they were gonna marry, like, an hour beforehand or, like, the day of. But nowadays arranged marriages is more of, like, oh, your parents are setting you up, like, you guys go on the first date now, like, so it's kind of developed now what we call arranged marriages because it's like your family goes and looks for you. And at some point I was open to it. I said yes, but I was also still looking on my own too.
Do you think, I mean, obviously you have a preference, but do you think that, like, anybody that's going through the process of an arranged marriage, like, what do you think are some key things that they should keep in mind going on that first date, or, like, making sure that a box checks off?
You gotta be straight up with everything you want.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to waste your time. Because you don't want to be in this process and then learn the heavy stuff later on, and then you're just, like, confused.
Yeah.
So be, like, super straight up with all the intention you have. And I think, like, for us, we discussed a lot before we even got married. We talked about, like, what our, like, careers would eventually be like, how each other family is, because one of the reality checks for me was, like, you did tell me straight up, like, you are the oldest son in the family. You do have to take care of the household. You have an immense responsibility, and you told me that straight up, you know. And I was like, I can definitely respect that. I understand that. I'm also the oldest, so like I get it, because like our connection was just so strong, and I literally couldn't imagine being with someone else on the day to day. So
Yeah.
like to me, I was very accepting of it. So you really need to be straight up and like not waste your time. I know it's scary, but it will weed out the people that is really wasting your time with.
And so going forward from that, like arranged marriages and love marriages, then it just goes back to our thing
Mhm.
where we our both of our parents expected us to be arranged and
Yeah.
ended up having a different situation go around that, and it being successful. During those moments of our families interacting for the first time, them meeting together, do you think it was just because of our families like being good people overall, or like something certain things clicking? Like, what do you think like really meshed it together
I
because of
think
that?
I think it was just like how our parents are, because it
Yeah.
they were, because I will say like my family's more on what we say on the modern side, in the sense of like they're more accepting to like American and like Western culture, where you were more like obviously like we were conservative, but we were conservative in the sense of like everything was like culturally related.
Yeah.
But like they understood, you know, like we grew up in America and stuff like that on certain extents. I think it was just like how our families were, and like to go back to like the whole like Bangladesh and Pakistan war, like none of our families ever brought that up to us. None
Yeah,
of
they
them
did
ever
not.
had this like biased against one another.
They did not.
Because I also grew up on Coney Island Avenue, where we grew up by Little Pakistan. So my dad would always we ate Pakistani food growing up my whole life. Like I had
Yeah.
Pakistani friends. Like this was not a new thing to me. Like so on our end, it was like nothing really different.
I
Um,
I think also like that melting pot of the South Asian community in Brooklyn
mm-hmm.
really allowed for us to break open that like glass door
Yeah, and
in a
and I
way.
definitely understand for like the Bengalis who did have relatives, their grandparents being refugees, being soldiers, all the people in those situations. Like I completely understand their point of view of like why would you marry someone who's Pakistani, and I get it. But like also I can't have that dictate my life either, because like I said, it's not like I was looking for you. It's
Yeah.
just we just ended up having a connection, and all the right things meshed up. And I think one of our close friends Shkam, his favorite thing to describe us is we're so different and we're so opposite because of who we are, but when we're together it just makes sense.
It just makes
It just
sense.
makes sense. And sure, I guess it clearly it made a lot of sense.
Yeah. I would say we're not your average couple in a way.
How?
Like in those like, years like getting together and getting our families together and all that, like we weren't really like arguing or
Yeah,
fighting
I'm
and
not gonna
stuff.
lie. There was a point where I was like, "Damn,
Like
I can't
it's
tell my future kids we fought for love
yeah, like
because we didn't."
it was not a kabhi khushi kabhi gum
Yeah, it
scenario.
wasn't. It was, and I was just because like obviously I exaggerate everything in my brain, and I grew up with so much TV, and I was like, "Damn, we really can't tell our kids like we fought for love, and we ran away and we eloped." No, it was a very easy process for us, and it was just a miracle that our families were just so open about it.
It was just a really big factor that like my parents grew older and they view the world differently. I mean, it also helped that I moved from an apartment to a house with my
Yeah,
family.
because you did say like your parents were really strict growing
Yeah,
up.
really strict growing up. They were I mean, I wouldn't use the word overbearing, but they would try to make sure that me and all my siblings were kind of kept in line
Mhm.
and we weren't doing reckless
Yeah,
stuff and
same.
just, messing up.
Yeah.
And because of that, we had this fear kind of built into us
Yeah,
of
same.
our parents.
Yeah.
And just right as we got that house, my parents chilled out.
Yeah.
They chilled out. They got to gardening,
Yeah.
and I think that just like really opened up that book of, like my oldest son, he is an older man now, like
Yeah.
he's not like a kid, he's not like some preteen, and this is something that he actually wants. He's explaining it to us clearly,
Yeah.
and he's being respectful to us. And we've seen the community, and we've seen just in our community how it, even if it's just a Pakistani marrying a Pakistani, even that doesn't work out.
Yeah,
So who are we to
exactly.
say that different cultures or something that wouldn't work
Exactly.
out? And I think that just really just brought everything together.
Yeah, and I think it's just like the whole idea of like Desi parents really not seeing you as an adult.
Yeah.
It just kind of lingers over you for such a long time, because it's like so true of like, oh, when we were growing up, because I feel like, and kind of one of the biggest reasons why we're even doing this podcast is just like there's not a lot of like Bangladeshi and Pakistani representation in general, because when we say South Asian representation, it always tends to just hit like Indians and just like the Indian market and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So like one big reason of why we're even doing this is just because like we just love seeing the representation. I feel like right now there's such a huge come up of like Bengali and Pakistani creatives, like
Yeah.
as in for New York, 100%. Like I feel like if
A
you
hundred
are a
percent.
Bengali or a Pakistani creative right now, like you need to be in New York,
Yeah. Now's
because
the time.
it's just like it's just so beautiful of where it's grown. And I feel like I've been in that process in its beginning stages, like from 5 years ago, when it was just like a tiny group of like stand-up comedians doing their thing, and then now where it is right now is like so amazing, and it's growing so much. So like obviously like one of the biggest reasons that we're even doing this is because like we want to like share our stories and like share people's stories, and if they need advice and stuff, because a lot of people, like I was never like an older sister to another sister,
Yeah.
but I feel like so many people ask me for advice, and like I've always been like that big sister type, because I have so many siblings, um, and just like your friends always come to you for advice too.
I would say so. I think just that representation is what we really are trying to address,
Yeah.
because there isn't like anybody out there for us.
There's
There
some.
are some,
There's
yes.
some, but it's still in like the process where
Yeah.
like because I never had like a role model growing up, you know? It's like I only watched TV.
Yeah, what I
So
mean
I
is
only
something big,
had like
like a
what
bigger
I would
creator.
say like is role models like on TV.
Yeah.
But I never had like an actual relatable person,
Yeah.
because I was kind of like the black sheep of the family. I just always did what I wanted to do. I never really cared of like what anyone would say growing up. So this was kind of like when we got married, it was also kind of like another thing of not like I did it on purpose or anything, but I'm just not going to play by the rules of what is expected. And I think like now, after we got married, like so many of my nieces and nephews were like, oh my God, like you really opened up like the books for me. Like you really opened up like my parents.
I think it's the same on my end, like everybody has seen like us go through it from my family.
And like I said, we're newly married. We're newly
Yeah.
married. We're not like seasoned married
Yeah, we're not
people.
veterans.
Yeah, we're not veterans.
And I think they seen us go through it, and they see that like this is something that
That works.
works, and it really breaks apart that is it generational trauma, I guess, in a sense, or
I wouldn't say it's generational trauma, just because like in our parents' generation, they were only around people that were the same ethnicity as them.
Yeah.
The majority of their lives.
Yeah.
I think the generational trauma of like maybe some behaviors being passed on of like train of thought, but like not like, I wouldn't say like overall.
Yeah, and so it just broke down that barrier, and now my family in like a full form, I think they can easily perceive that happening for one of their kids, or like my parents could probably see that from my siblings even. I'm sure, they'll still have that bias of them wanting to my siblings to marry a Pakistani person.
Yeah,
Of
exactly. It's
course.
just easier. It's easier when
Yeah,
it comes to like setting family stuff up.
of course, but
But it's not impossible.
yeah,
Clearly, like we did it. So many people have done it. Hundreds of people have done it.
yeah. So it feels good to know that our whole situation is allowing for other people to build the
Yeah,
future.
and it's like even if like I'm not trying to say we are the representation of our people. Like it's not that. It's just like if we can help someone, that's a win for me. If we can help someone's parents open up, that's a win. Or if you have the courage to like tell your parents like this is the person I want to marry, or like I want to move to LA, I want to move out of the house. Like if we can like help someone be encouraged to even start that conversation, that's already one step ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Because like as the older siblings, like no one ever helped us in doing stuff. We always had to be the first ones. And like now our siblings can look at us and they can do it without hesitation. Or if like someone else is watching this, then maybe it inspired them, because I get so many DMs of like, hey, like, how'd you tell your parents? And it's like, damn, like, that's kind of crazy that, like, they're asking me, but also, like, I get it. Yeah. I am publicizing it on, like, my social media. But I'm not doing that because of me. I'm doing that because, like, I always wanted to help somebody else.
Yeah. So going off that, one thing that I want to say for all the South Asian dudes out there, all my brown Monday, steps on breaking that news, you sit them down, and number one, you be respectful. Number two, you make sure to bring across what you have to say clearly. Don't try not to be nervous. Your heart's gonna be pounding, but you have to be confident in what you're bringing across to them. If you're not confident, they're just going to see you as a kid who's making a mistake.
They're gonna like doubt it.
They're gonna doubt it.
Oh, it's just like some girl he likes.
Yeah. If you have a very family-oriented family, or she has a very family-oriented family, make sure that's known.
Yeah.
Make sure that's known. Because that's a big factor.
Plus, yeah.
And try to bring across how you've interacted with the family or you've found out about the family. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely introduce your siblings before you introduce the parents, because like your siblings are either going to be on your side or they're not going to be on your side.
Exactly.
And the one thing about siblings is they're going to tell you straight up if they like your mans or if they like your girl.
Yeah. And then after you made the family thing known across, you want to bring in a discussion where it's you and your parents, or you and your guardian, whoever it is that you're breaking this message to, that they can see you on a personal level. They don't see you in a form of this is my son. They kind of see you as this is a person who's ready for the next stage of his life, and he's bringing this across to me, and I'm that protector, and I need to make sure of that for them. Yeah. So if you bring across it in this form, for those brown wounded that have those overprotective mothers out there or overprotective fathers, that will break it down for them. They're gonna see you're confident. They're gonna see that he really wants this, but he's being respectful of us by making sure that we at least meet her first, so we can judge and assess for ourselves. Yeah. And bringing all of that together just allows for them to open up whatever thoughts they have, and erases whatever doubts they have. When they finally sit down with the family, when they finally meet the girl, it helps them really just see who you are and see who they are, and kind of helps them assess that, okay, this is something that can work. Yeah. And let's say the meeting doesn't go great. You don't need
Give
to
them time.
give them time.
Yeah.
It's okay. Let's say they flat out, you've gone through all these steps, they say no. They say no, we're not for it.
Yeah.
You have to give them time.
Yeah.
Time is the solution here.
Yeah.
I personally, I wouldn't recommend any eloping because I don't like to have family tears or broken families and things of that
But
nature.
it's like you hate your family.
Okay.
Then go for it. Then go for it. But like if you actually like your parents.
If you like your parents.
If you like your parents.
If you like your family.
Maybe just give them a little time.
Just give them a little time. You're going to have some fights. You're going to have a few arguments.
Yeah.
But they're your parents. They love you and you love them.
But also remember, like, if it's worth the person fighting for. You know?
I mean...
Like be sure.
Yeah, I mean, that before even all of this conversation, you have to be ready for that. That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to be confident. You need to be
mentally prepared for a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go well and you tell your partner that it doesn't go well, you have to make it, like, clear to your partner that, hey, it didn't go...
It's going to take some time on my end.
Yeah. We're just going to need to work through it.
Yeah.
And it'll happen.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard so many stories. The parents, they say no. They say no. They argue across of it. They fight across it months, maybe year, 2 years.
And then sometimes it deteriorates the relationship too. It affects the relationship, and then you start questioning, like, oh, like, do I even want this? Like, is the fighting worth it? Yeah. And it's tough. But
you know what? Every single story that I've heard where the parents said no, they've always said yes at the end.
Yeah.
Eventually, they always say yes. If your parents are religious, I would definitely try to bring it across in a religious note as well. I think that would help them understand.
Tailor your situation. If your parents are more on the religious side, bring up a lot more religious facts. Yeah. Bring up more religious background on the family.
Definitely.
If they're more just like on the regular cultural conservative side, bring out the family orientation part of it.
Yeah. And for example, I know a guy had fight with his family. Well, yeah. I mean, they just said flat out no from the very beginning. And he fought with his family for months and months and months. She stuck by his side the entire time. And in the end, he goes to his parents and he said, all I want is to be happy in life, and I want you guys to want happiness for me. And
which is a crazy concept for brown parents.
Yeah, and that's all he said to them. Yeah. And both of the parents sat down and they were like, what are we doing? We're blocking ourselves from our child's happiness. That's so sad. Like that it really hit them in that moment.
And that's sometimes how you need to break it down for them. Like, you have to make it known in that really deep, like, experience for them, because also Desi parents are not thinking about happiness like in what we think of happiness. Like, our version of happiness is very different from our parents'. So, like, even bringing up the word happiness, there's so many definitions of what it actually is for them. So sometimes, like, it's kind of messed up, but, like, they need to realize the existential crisis that they're seeing in front of their face.
Yeah, and what ended up at the end? The parents said, okay, let's do it. Let's go across it. And happily married. The entire family is happy. They regret they even went through that. Yeah. You know, lost months, lost time. Yeah. So you really want to make it clear from the very beginning as much as you can and be respectful as much as you can. But if it doesn't end up happening, just give it some time.
Yeah, and I think with us too, like, because we're both Muslim, like, the whole marriage thing, it happened really quickly. Yeah. Because, like I said, I was moving to LA. Both parents said yes. So because my parents were terrified, I've never lived out anywhere outside of New York before, never lived by myself before, lived at home my whole life, didn't even go away to school, always was home because I was never allowed to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So even with that, like, my parents were really like, okay, we need you guys to get married so my daughter's not alone in LA by herself. So we officially got married in March, but because of like just like my work schedule and all that stuff, that's why our summer events, like our actual wedding events, were later on.
Yeah.
So that was a crazy time. But we'll definitely talk about like our wedding stuff in a
Yeah,
different time.
the move, the wedding stuff.
But yeah, I really had like the most chaotic year of my life. Like, this was actually
insane.
literally like crazy. Like, stuff like this does not happen to people. Like, you don't move across the country when you've never lived by yourself before. You never work at a job that, spoiler alert, I hate the job. So working at a job you hate every single day, being alone, not knowing anyone in LA, slowly starting to meet people, then going back to New York every single month. It was either wedding preparation or to get married.
Yeah.
And then just like random little things, but like now you're here. So that's been great. 10 out of 10.
It's honestly been the most chaotic 2 years, I would say, for me. Getting a house, breaking so it down to events. Your family, our family getting together, getting married, you moving to LA, getting situated in LA. You know, our friend Scrum, he said, you're not even gonna have your own room for a whole year, and
no, literally, you had your own room for the first time in your life, like less than a year. So it's just been insane, and honestly, now that it's processing in my head, now that we're talking about it, just in a timeline aspect, it's crazy.
It's so crazy. But yeah, how did you like our events? Before we'll get into all of it, but did you like them?
I did love our events. In retrospect, when I watch back on the footage, it's amazing.
It's so beautiful.
There were certain things that got to me because there is a very different dynamic with a bride versus a groom.
Yeah.
Huge differences, but we'll talk about that in a different time.
Yeah.
But I guess, like, real quick, like, just some advice I would give to my fellow Desi girls that are trying to get married. If your parents are going crazy, reassure them that it will happen eventually. Not today, not tomorrow, but it will happen. Don't pressure yourself. Like, I'm so glad I took the time and waited for someone that I was 100% on than rushing into something that I was not going to be prepared on. So definitely don't let anyone pressure you. At the end of the day, you are the one that's getting married. You are the person that's going to be living with them, sharing the same bed as them. So do not rush into it.
And you know what? I have to say, don't settle for the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many, like, just even my own, family members, just like, and like close friends, like they're getting together with a guy who is an absolute asshole.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they're just settling down, and why?
Yeah.
Well, you don't need to do this right now. Like, this is not necessary. I understand you're getting older.
Yeah.
But this is not necessary at all.
And I did wait till like you actually had a career.
Yeah.
Like, when I told my parents too, because like my parents would never be okay if like you didn't have a job.
And
like,
I would never,
or like a security type thing.
Yeah, and I would never go to your parents without that affirmation myself that, hey, I have a wife that I have to take care of.
Yeah.
And I have these responsibilities in a marriage, and I don't have a career, I don't have a job. Like, I would never engage in that.
Yeah. And then definitely play up your partner. Like, you gotta make sure you make your partner known to be the most amazing human being alive. Like, you gotta say he's good looking, he gonna go to heaven, that's how religious he is. Like, you gotta make sure he is the creme de la creme. And you gotta be confident too. There should be no hesitation, because if you show hesitation, your parents are gonna be like, I don't know if you know what you think you know.
I think, all the dudes have enough tough time as it is telling their parents, but for women it's so much harder.
Yeah, because there's so much expectation, because like I know a lot of us did grow up in America. We do have this independent mindset, but like some of our parents don't.
Yeah.
They always do think that we needed a man to like take care of us and stuff like that. Like I'm a very independent woman. Like I did a lot of stuff by myself, and like you're just like so amazing that you supported me through a lot of stuff that I've done on my own. But like a lot of our parents don't think that we're capable of like being by ourselves. So definitely like mention that yes, you do strive for this independence. You are who you are, because never like not be who you are.
Yeah.
Like always keep your own morals and like how your personality is. That's why it's important to have someone that supports those qualities, because like if he was a man that was like, no, I want you home, like I don't want you working and stuff like that, then it's kind of like that's already like a weird factor in this dynamic, because it would be like we're both on opposing views, and obviously like there's nothing wrong with either or, but like the couple has to be in agreement of like what the expectation between them is.
It shouldn't be, in my opinion, where it's like the dude just forces down his opinion fully, and then the woman's like, okay, whatever, like I'm gonna do this, or this is something that I have to do now.
And I think for the girls, definitely introduce them to like your closest friends and your siblings, because they're gonna give you the honest feedback. They're gonna give you like the go-to if like this is something you should pursue to your parents. Like as soon as you were in my life, I've asked every single person of what they thought of you, and like obviously everyone loved you because you're so likable, but like I had to know everyone's opinions, because like these are the people that are going to be in my life for the rest of my life. So if they don't like you, that's like a stress that I would have.
You know what's so funny? That she's talking about your friends liking me, and then when I introduced my friends like to you, the only like comment that I have is that you didn't like them. And I would just be like, they're my friends. Like, these are the people
Why didn't I like them?
They just weren't social enough.
Oh, that's why. Because like I'm a very outgoing person, so I love bringing up conversations. Like I love getting to know people, and like your friends were just like not talking, and I was like, that's weird. Like I'm trying to be your friend.
Yeah, and to make it make sense, we did say that we had similar friend groups, but we also have our own separate friend groups.
Not our mutual friends, like his own separate other group of friends.
Yeah.
Damn, I feel bad if they're watching this. I'm sorry. I like you guys now. I do. Like you guys are great. We've actually had conversations now.
I mean, this was really fun.
This was fun.
This was really fun. I think
I was in a really bad mood before this.
Yeah, we had a tough morning, and you know what? That's part of marriage, I think. And like the fact is that even regardless of your ups and downs, you just love each other so much.
Yeah, because like I'm very hot and you're very cold.
Cold?
So no, but like, you know, like I'm the first one to get like annoyed easily.
Yeah.
And then because if I'm annoyed, then you get annoyed. And then I get annoyed that you're annoyed when I'm in a good mood. So then it just like backfires on us. But like I will say, like, if there is one person in this world that really brings out like the best of me, it's definitely you. Yeah. And like it's just been so much fun in these past few years, and like it's so exciting that like now it's official, and now I can bring you to like family parties, and like you can make up excuses whenever we need to leave, and then we go. That's so fun.
We're just so like, honestly, you know the term soulmates, or like you're made for each other, like because we're so opposite in so many things. Yeah. I feel like that really holds well for us.
Yeah. And you know that gives you like another thing, like maybe open yourself up to something that is the complete opposite from you, because in a different episode we're definitely going to talk about differences, because there is everything that's different between us.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I just love doing this. Just like I can't wait to talk even more for coming episodes, because there's so much that I want to talk about. And we talk
like this like in general. We literally
all day
talk,
long. Yeah, all day long. So why not bring it across to you guys, give you
Yeah.
our opinions. Maybe you guys can take something away from our
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. And like, if
And-
you guys ever have any questions or anything you want us to talk about, please let us know, because we love clearly to talk.
Yeah.
And this is so exciting.
Yeah. And this has been Coffee versus Chai. I'm Furqan.
And I'm Shompa. Okay, bye.
Bye.